Hey guys, Frank here, welcome back. Today's top AskReddit post is, Americans, how do you feel about the firing of 20% of 4-star generals? Worth noting that he's already fired the chiefs for each branch of the military. Those were the top lawyers who advise on the legality of orders. Relevant quote from the Secretary of Defense, Hegseth told reporters Monday that the removals were necessary because he didn't want them to pose any roadblocks to orders that are given by a commander-in-chief. He's done the same with the FBI, CIA, NSA, DOJ, and DHS. It's a coup, y'all. Very worried because he is going to replace them all with yes men who will likely sign off on his most insane ideas without question. No more checks on his power, no more generals who will put country and constitution above the whims of a wannabe dictator. Not an American, but learned some new relevant info. I didn't realize there are only around 40 total 4-star generals in the US military. So a 20% reduction is only like 8 people. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Trump knew what 8 people he wanted out a long, long time ago. One thing you'll notice is they are systematically removing as many non-whites and women as they can from senior military executive leadership. These people are very much segregationists who think anyone who's not a white man is presumptively unfit for command. By a commentator from Fox and Friends. Don't forget this decision isn't being made by a person who understands the military or why things are the way they are. In addition, please be aware the military is audited constantly by qualified individuals who help to determine why and what we need to maintain our trillion-dollar annual investment. If you wanted to turn the US military on its own people, this would be a necessary step. The goal here is to eliminate the senior-level gatekeepers. This way the administration has more latitude to order the military to undertake tasks which go against the spirit, if not the letter of the law, and encounter less opposition to those orders. It's that simple. I am almost 30-year veteran. Our senior officer ranks are definitely bloated. No doubt about that. I noted throughout my career this would come up every 8 or 10 years. Then the number of flag officers would go up again. As a defense of current levels, the US military is the greatest planning organization, bar none. For any type of military operation it takes a lot of preparation. Plus the research done in DoD is phenomenal. The comments in here got me worried. We need to make America great again. Air Force of 10 years here. This is one of the rare things I agree with Hegseth with. We have a relatively small military force compared to our population of around 1.3 million-ish service members. In context, we had over double that in Vietnam and over 12 million in WW2. Yet today, the Army alone has more 4 stars than in any point of our US history, and that's just one out of the now 6 branches. We are so top-heavy it's hard to even argue the disproportionate ratio to troop levels. There's too many flags officers in our military for no added gain to force readiness. These are political appointments in effect and are just a financial drain because they draw a salary for their entire life. We fought and won WW2 with 4. We don't need 30 edit. My only gripe would be that I don't trust this administration to not make these decisions based on political criteria rather than cutting those that contribute the least force readiness. There is not a single serious student of military science who does not think there are too many flag officers. We have more now than during World War II when we had literally millions of service members in uniform. IDK man, I can't afford housing. It's a Russian coup. Cold War never ended. We are losing badly. 20% equals 8 people. We will still have more than 2x the amount we had during WW2 when the military was a lot larger. Putin's puppet doing what puppets do. Trump needs to be put in trial for treason. How would you feel if this was happening in your country? Half the people here would feel the same as you and half the people would feel the opposite. This goes for any Americans. How do you feel about questions? Good. That's basically the bloated middle management that doesn't do anything. Not a purge. As a former member of the military, there is a lot of dead weight at the top. Deadwood needs to be culled and it's long overdue. These folks could have retired years before but hang around for ego juice. These same sort of insincere, open-ended questions directed at Americans always being upvoted to the front page gives Reddit such an artificial, captured vibe. Starting to question if any of the dialogue is real in this subreddit, or if it's all users and bots that agree with themselves asking themselves questions and then boldly answering themselves to give an illusion of unanimous agreement. It makes about as much sense as anything else that idiot has done so far. USAF 67 to 72 here. Sadly, politicians have been running wars forever. Shit got worse and worse during the Korean War and then Vietnam-American War. End result, more lives wasted and destroyed, so some asswipe can make more money. Now there's a draft dodger in charge again with no clue. More deaths and misery to come. Retired USAF here. This is a purge. If you've read Project 2025 then you'll understand. They are purging anyone that could or would have the power to stop the coup. Why the freak are there so many 4-star generals? 7 during World War II, 17 during Vietnam, 47 during the Iraq War, 43 in 2020 and 38 today, and that's just in the Army. You have Navy admirals, Air Force generals, Marine generals, Joint Duty 4-star officers, even Space Force generals. There is an insane amount of bloat in the military officer corps. The answers I'm reading are so fucking far out in left field it's hilarious. We are not at war. Our military budget is massive. We don't need them. The fact that people and bots think that is just going to replace them is asinine. There's no plan to replace them. I think it's absolutely insane. They are replacing competent employees with ass-kissing bootlickers who will do Trump's every evil bidding, no questions asked. Clinton fired more. Also, the officer corps is way too big. I think people commenting on Reddit are hilariously unqualified to make any sort of judgment on the topic. We are less safe every day that he remains in charge. I think it's strategic to install Trump loyalists in these positions. I also think it's a really bad idea. It's all in Project 2025 that Trump obviously had nothing to do with. Firing top officers is one of many ways Project 2025 seeks to rebuild a military it refers to as Barack Obama's General Officer Corps. In addition to calling for firing and freezing promotions for generals, Project 2025 also wants to rebuild and retrain the military. It would require all public schools to administer the military entrance exam for recruitment. The document also calls for the reinstatement of active duty members who refused COVID vaccines and restoring their rank. This was from an article written last year. Former Army: I don't know about the individual generals he cut, but we have way too many generals and probably field-grade officers. We have more 4-star generals now than we did during WW2. The military, like most government agencies, had become bloated and bureaucratic. I can't say I am smart enough as to the cause, but I think some of it is too many generals trying to add stars to their soldiers. I mean, just look at the debacle that was the M10 Booker program. For reference, a major in the Army built the Panama Canal. How many generals and how long would it take to get that made today, assuming they could pull it off? After the Civil War, Congress passed a law stating that no commissioned officer may be dismissed from any armed force except 1. By sentence of a general court-martial, 2. In commutation of a general court-martial, or 3. In time of war, by order of the President. This language remains in the current statute today. As with everything from the Trump admin, I'm just trying to figure out where on the stupid to evil spectrum this falls. Maybe I met one 4-star general in my life. Several 3-star generals. Very impressed with all of them. I took mental note of their capacity for situational awareness in a large scope of topics. If indeed, these 20% were forced into retirement, I would welcome them to help clean house of a spectrum of MNCs, multinational corporations. As much as I would like the American military to be kneecapped to lessen the effectiveness of our imperialistic efforts, I get the sneaking suspicion this is being done just to consolidate power and hinder any dissenting voices. Deeply concerned. I won't discuss much around subjects like these online. He's no doubt removing military leaders that would not allow him to attack us citizens. It's a lead-up to getting people out of the way who will oppose him when he declares martial law. Simple enough. Stalin did that in his purge. Stupid. It's an excuse to get rid of the ones they don't want around. Here's what I've heard: there are 38 four-star generals, so we are talking about firing around 8 people. The reason given was so that we can hire more fighters, i.e., lower-level personnel. But here's the thing, firing about 8 generals will allow them to hire say 50 to 75 soldiers. Given what we've got a military of over 1 million people, funding for 50 to 75 more is not a significant number, and firing generals doesn't make sense. So what's really going on? Stupid mistake somebody will pay for. When India and Pakistan are on the brink of a nuclear conflict, someone remove the lush from the Pentagon and replace him with someone competent who knows proper OPSEC before we are all inhaling fallout. These questions keep being asked and framed exactly like this, and the answer is we feel angry and annoyed, this is all super shitty and we hate it, but also we feel helpless and unable to do anything about it, and those who represent our side of things are spineless and doing nothing. Alternatively, there's the insane crazy other half whose feelings can basically be summed up as Murica freak yeah, burn iron heck everyone did fearant from me rare go Trump, savior and God king of the universe. I feel like this is one of those steps a corrupt government would take before doing something horrible so that there are fewer people in positions to resist. Everything happening is the fall of Rome here. I'd be upset if I hadn't already accepted that this country is collapsing. What does a dying nation need with competent military leadership? Half of your answers are from pro-Russian shells. Can we do the same to politicans? Picking military leadership based on loyalty to a leader rather than competence is how you end up with Russian soldiers going into battle with cardboard armor and styrofoam helmets, pushing 50 miles outside their own borders and then running out of fuel. Dictators pick loyalty over competence because it keeps them safe, and it's the first step towards turning the military from a defense force to an occupation force. Trump picked Mad Dog Mattis, one of the greatest Marines of our time, to head the DoD, and he hated that Mattis would not kiss the ring, so now he put a kiss-ass person with problem talk show host as his man in charge. Always good to make sure that organizations don't get too top-heavy with too many upper managers fighting over fiefdoms. There are currently 38 four-star generals and admirals across our military. President Clinton eliminated 57 total general positions in the military as part of his military streamlining project. So eliminating 7 to 8 out of 38 4-stars doesn't seem so drastic. Nobody here has any idea what they are talking about. Why are you asking Reddit? Retired Navy here. Less people with power than can turn on him is my official opinion on it. Also, it's just a bad move. It will probably create headaches at a fleet theater level because of abrupt regime changes. With 1/8 the total enlistment, we had 3x the number of 4-star generals. Across America, bloat in the administration levels of organizations is due for a reversal, and that certainly includes the military. But watch, people who have wanted to reduce military spending for decades will oppose this because it's Trump doing the cuts. It's called a purge. Dictators do this so they can do whatever they want. They are purging anyone who has the slightest disagreement with Trump. From the Authoritarianism 101 playbook. This administration will go down in history as the most self-destructive and least intelligent government ever to see the light of day. Proj 25 includes, identify the least Trumpy 20% of generals, remove while loudly proclaiming efficiency, etc. So it fades into everything else. Repeat 1 year later with the next 20% least Trumpy generals goal. Any attempt at 25th Amendment does not have the remaining generals on board. Another piece of the Trump-Putin plan to ruin America. The tariffs are ruining all trade and military alliances, and this devious step is to literally ruin the military leadership. I guess we'll just watch it all happen because mega morons want to burn it all down because they've been drinking the Fox News Kool-Aid for decades and their minds are cooked. At the moment, I'm reading a book about the KGB, and earlier, there was a passage about the Stalinist purges. The purge meant that Germany's dark leader was able to attack Russia without the country being ready because all the high-ranking generals had been removed. Setting up for the Proud Boys to make their move on 2028. No generals. I'm shooting back. It's a thinly veiled step to do a coup in 3 years by removing people who will say no to illegal orders put forth by the administration. This is a standard step of fascist authoritarianism. Military should have publicly called for the 25th Amendment and been only talking to Pence since 2017, he's unfit to take the oath. They neglected to act and now we all suffer. As a result, they failed to uphold defending their duty and obligations to the Constitution. Man, those comments really make my throat thirsty. Alright folks, this was Frank. Follow for more daily top comments from AskReddit.